The year is 3045, and Marvel just released their new film, Avengers 43: The Legend of Stark-Skuld. While over at DC, they finally released their solo Flash movie.
Full transparency, I've never done battle. I've just pushed some people and run away.
Online, the debate between Marvel and DC continues. There's always talk between the two fandoms about which characters could beat up the other fandom's characters, and I'm here today to talk about one particular Marvel villain who could wipe out almost every single heavy hitter in DC's arsenal. That's right, Thanos has the skills, the strength, and power to totally destroy all the following DC villains. Does that make you upset? Well, reality is often disappointing.
Reality can be whatever I want.
In the ultimate villain matchup between Marvel and DC, there's no fight that's talked about more than Thanos versus Darkseid, the Mad Titan versus the Lord of Apocalypse. Now, I'll admit, out of all these fights on today's list, I do think Darkseid will put up the biggest challenge. They're both strong, smart, and have an insatiable appetite to get what they want. Their obsession with finding something that will help them control the entire universe gives them a lot in common. To the point where I don't necessarily want to see them fight, but rather have their own spin-off buddy cop show because they're both so similar and incredibly different. But overall, I think Thanos ekes out a victory here. It comes down to who can find their powerful MacGuffin first. Thanos with his Infinity Stones or Darkseid with his anti-life equation. And I think Thanos has the better track record here. Plus, if you eliminate those and just go with a straight fist fight, Thanos definitely wins. Doomsday has the rare distinction of actually being a villain who's managed to kill Superman. That's no small feat. I bet Doomsday won Villain of the Month award from the National Villains Association for that, don't you think? So you know that Doomsday is powerful and strong, but you know what he's missing? A brain. Doomsday is pure, unfiltered destruction who wants to destroy everything in his path. And while that's terrifying to face in battle, it's also easier to come up with plans to stop. You don't necessarily have to outstrength Doomsday, though I think Thanos would do well enough in that, but you have to outsmart him. Thanos is no fool. He wouldn't just charge Doomsday in the battlefield to try to punch him into submission. No, he'd send a lot of his army to weaken Doomsday first and tire him out before leading him to a place where he could launch all his missiles and weapons at him, followed by the finishing blow. Doomsday? More like Dunsday. Or Doomsdone? Thanos could think of something better. Thanos seems so stressed all the time. He really needs to chill out. Ugh, I just had Batman and Robin flashbacks. But if you put Mr. Freeze against Thanos, then really the only way Mr. Freeze could hope to win is if he delivered terrible pun after terrible pun in Thanos' direction, so that Thanos' ears start bleeding from the pain.
All that for a drop of blood.
Okay, maybe this isn't giving Mr. Freeze much credit. The live-action version wasn't that great, but the comic character himself is both smart, driven, and keeps upgrading his freeze technology. And hey, maybe Thanos is more of a summer weather guy, right? Maybe Mr. Freeze could freeze him in a block of ice? Ah, who am I kidding? Even if Freeze did put Thanos on ice, Thanos would just bust out and break Mr. Freeze's life-saving suit with like one punch. Sorry, Victor. So what happens when the Agent of Chaos goes up against a dude that's all about making things perfectly balanced?
Perfectly balanced. This whole thing should be.
Well, an extreme battle of philosophies, that's what. Sure, Joker is no match for Thanos physically, even though I'd love to see what would happen if Joker pulled out his trusty crowbar and took a cheap shot to Thanos' knees, but a conversation between the two would be fascinating. Joker would try to get Thanos to see the chaotic nature of the universe and try to divert him from his path of order and balance. And while Joker might make a few good points, Thanos is just too committed to his cause to ever be swayed by the Clown Prince of Crime. He'll remain his driven self and seek to snap Joker's neck like he did with Loki. Sure, Joker would try his laughing gas on him, which probably wouldn't work, but don't you now want to see Thanos laughing like a maniac with a big smile on his face? Sorry, Bane, you won't be breaking Thanos anytime soon. Thanos is just too powerful to be beaten by a guy on steroids who never misses leg day at the gym, don't you think? But it would be interesting overall to see how Bane approaches his fight with Thanos. Because I think Bane is primarily known for his brawn, but let's not forget he's a brilliant tactician. His method of breaking Batman in the comics was methodical and genius, and he was even able to deduce Batman's secret identity. It was brilliant. Would he bring that sort of strategic planning in his Thanos fight? Probably. And if this was just a brute alien villain, then maybe it would work. But this is Thanos we're talking about.
He's a plague, Tony. He invades planets, he takes what he wants, he wipes out half the population.
Thanos is just as smart and won't be fooled by any of Bane's tricks. Then all it takes is a few hits from the Mad Titan to cast Bane back into the darkness where he was born. Lex Luthor has one of the greatest superpowers ever: money. He'll have every single resource on the planet ready to create some type of weapon to use against Thanos that hopefully stops the Mad Titan in his tracks. The issue here is, nothing on Earth is really strong enough to hurt Thanos. Lex Luthor can build whatever fancy laser blast he wants with Earth's rarest materials, but all that's going to do is scratch Thanos. And really, all that for a drop of blood? Next, Lex would try to negotiate with Thanos, but that won't go well for old Lexi, because as Lex likes to manipulate people with pressure points, Thanos doesn't have a lot of those to be exploited. All that's left afterwards is Thanos cracking Lex's bald head open like an egg. Sinestro could be a huge thorn in Thanos' side. Those power rings are no joke, and if used correctly, they're almost unbeatable. Sinestro wields a yellow ring, which deals with fear, and it gives him a bunch of powers like flight and the ability to construct anything he can imagine. Thanos would probably have to bring his army to help fight Sinestro, and Sinestro would definitely need to keep his distance. But if Thanos uses his goons and his weapons to draw Sinestro closer to him in hand-to-hand combat, then Sinestro is in serious trouble. Sinestro has great hand-to-hand combat skills, and in some cases he can even tap into a person's fears, but really I don't think Thanos fears too much. That ability to not be afraid, coupled with his army and his personal strength, equals Sinestro not walking away from this fight. Strength-wise, I do think Black Adam has the edge over an Infinity Stone-less Thanos, which makes sense. Black Adam is insanely powerful and one of DC's greatest anti-heroes. Yes, he can be extremely violent, but he also lives by his own honorable code. And like a lot of these fights, what this brawl comes down to is personality. Because yes, Black Adam may be stronger and faster and will eventually soon be seen in live action played by The Rock, but he also has a massive ego that can be exploited. It's his biggest weakness, and Black Adam can be manipulated by preying on his ego, something Thanos would know exactly how to do. So in a straight up fist fight, Black Adam wins. But if you take into account everything, then I give the edge to Thanos. I hope gorillas aren't on the endangered species list, because after Thanos faces Gorilla Grodd, there's going to be one less primate walking around. Grodd's biggest claim to fame is his telepathic abilities, but we've seen how something like those work on Thanos. When Mantis, who's powerful enough to calm Ego the Living Planet, tries to keep Thanos under control, she comments,
"Be quick! He is very strong!"
how difficult it is, and she's really struggling to keep him contained. If Mantis can't do it, then certainly Gorilla Grodd couldn't control Thanos either, right? I think it would be difficult to resist, but Thanos would break through any mental attacks Grodd throws at him. So then it's basically just a giant purple dude fighting a big monkey, and sorry Grodd, but my money's on the big purple dude here. General Zod is a Kryptonian. Kryptonians can win almost any fight. It's actually pretty hard for them to not win, right? Well, this is one fight that Zod would lose. For one, Zod is powerful under the yellow sun like Superman, but it's not like Thanos only hangs out in our solar system. He's traveled the whole universe. More likely than not, the fight would take place somewhere where Zod doesn't get that much of a power boost. But even if that wasn't the case, Thanos is the type of alien to go around collecting objects before confronting an opponent. It was basically his whole shtick in the MCU, right? I would imagine Thanos, having to face Zod, would scour the galaxy looking for kryptonite and to build a suit of armor out of it or something. I mean, I at least hope Thanos would do it himself while looking for kryptonite and not delegate it to his henchmen. Whenever he delegates getting magical items, he usually ends up betrayed. Look, we all love Deathstroke. His design is usually awesome. He usually rocks a cool eye patch. He's the inspiration for Deadpool, and depending on his portrayal, he could either be an awesome hardcore assassin who could take down the Bat, or he's a goofy schmuck battling the Teen Titans in Teen Titans Go to the Movies. There's a Deathstroke for everyone is what I'm saying. But no matter how much we may like Deathstroke's armor, his design, or his skills, there's just no version of the character who's going to beat Thanos. Sorry, Slade. I imagine a scenario where Slade sneaks aboard Thanos' ship in the dead of night and tries to catch the Mad Titan off guard. But let's be real, is the Mad Titan ever truly off guard? His reflexes are lightning fast, and one punch from Thanos would make Slade Wilson wish he had Wade Wilson's healing factor. Deathstroke would need to be part of a team, a very large and very powerful team, in order to take Thanos down, because by himself, he doesn't stand a chance. Now, this one is an interesting fight. One of Superman's greatest villains is, of course, Brainiac. He's sometimes an android, sometimes a cyborg, but always bad to the bone. I think Thanos would struggle with Brainiac for a bit, mainly because Brainiac's reach is so vast. He's hard to destroy because there's always a copy of him somewhere, and the way he infects and destroys planets looking for knowledge is done with ruthless efficiency. But still, in the end, Thanos could totally win this fight. Brainiac may have a 12th level intellect, alongside access to amazing tech, but Thanos has both intimidation and the numbers behind him. When you fight Thanos, you're also fighting the Black Order as well as all the armies he's amassed over his years of conquesting. This is enough to completely overwhelm the supercomputer and grant Thanos that W. Now here's the big question. Can the best ninja in the world hold a candle to the awesome might of Thanos? I mean, no, but it's fun to speculate on. Ra's al Ghul comes with his own League of Assassins, and being the head honcho grants you some serious perks. For a regular guy, Raz's resources are vast, and he could call upon a whole army of ninjas to try to take Thanos down. Hey, it would work on any normal human, but obviously the problem is that Thanos isn't from around here. If Thanos can shrug off Hulk hits along with slams from Cap's shield, Iron Man's blasts, and Thor's hammer, then he's going to be able to fight off some ninjas. They'll try to sneak behind him and slash him up, but it would feel like a tickle to Thanos. And if Raz and Thanos engaged in a one-on-one battle, then Raz doesn't have the stamina or the strength in order to strike his killing blow. He'd probably be able to last a while, but if there isn't a Lazarus pit nearby, then Raz is in some serious trouble. What's Thanos truly afraid of? That would be what Scarecrow would want to get to the bottom of. Though first, he would need to produce a fear toxin strong enough to work on Thanos, which isn't going to be an easy task. I mean, Scarecrow's fear toxin has a very hit or miss ratio when it comes to humans. Sometimes it seems permanent. Sometimes it wears off rather quickly, or if you're like Batman, you can basically brush it off by not being afraid or embracing it or something. I just imagine though that Titan immune systems are a bit stronger and harder to infect. But even if Jonathan Crane did somehow concoct a formula that would work on Thanos, would it really work? Thanos has proven that he's so dedicated to his cause and believes in it so much that he isn't really afraid of anything. When your whole thing is making your enemies afraid and you're up against someone without fear, then you're kind of in trouble. Sorry, Scarecrow. Can Thanos swim? He talks about Titan being a utopia, but did it have a public pool filled with chlorine water that burned his eyes during the summer? Did he and his little Titan friends go visit the ocean during teenage road trips? These are the questions I want answered here, folks. But let's get one thing out of the way when pitting Thanos against King Shark. If it was on land, then King Shark would be turned into shark fin soup quicker than he could count to 3. He'd suffer a fate worse than the shark from Jaws. But in the water might be a bit of a different story. Thanos would probably sink like a rock, and King Shark would have the advantage. But the thing is, I think Thanos could much more easily lure King Shark out of the water than King Shark could get Thanos into the water, don't you think? Thanos just wouldn't put himself in the position to be at a disadvantage. Black Manta is a really intimidating villain in the comics, but honestly, I want to see the live-action version that we saw in the Aquaman movie fight Thanos. In that movie, this guy was seriously fighting outside his weight class every time he faced Aquaman, and yet he was so gosh darn committed, wasn't he? He just sprung into battle, ready to try to face a superpowered Atlantean. I just want to see Black Manta attack Thanos with that level of vigor and determination, don't you? Sure, he'd get destroyed almost instantly, but it'd be fun to see, right? Vandal Savage is one of DC's all-time great villains in my opinion. You know, as long as you don't watch the first season of Legends of Tomorrow. But there's something about Vandal Savage that's so intriguing. He's a criminal mastermind mainly because he's immortal. He can't die and has been around the block a few times, so he knows a thing or two about history and wars. Seeing him go up against Thanos would be intriguing because Thanos couldn't just knock him out with brute strength. Though Thanos is an alien who's traveled the cosmos, and even though he's immortal, I don't see how Vandal Savage would survive being chucked into a nearby sun, do you? Yep, I'm gonna say it. Thanos could totally beat Trigon. How, you ask? Oh, well, I'm gonna tell you. Oh boy, am I gonna tell you. Yep, I'm gonna do it. You know Trigon, the all-powerful, universe-conquering demon who can reshape planets with the snap of his fingers and create legions of demon hordes at a moment's notice? Yeah, that Trigon. Well, Thanos would, oh, hey, you know what? I've forgotten how great the original Teen Titans TV show was. Where's my box set? I know it's around here somewhere. Whatever way the Teen Titans beat Trigon in that show is how Thanos would beat Trigon. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, moving on. Okay, picture this. There Thanos is, having just achieved his ultimate goal of wiping out half the universe. He thinks he's done, but then realizes something horrific. He can't reach 100% completion until he collects 5 more Riddler trophies. He weeps because he doesn't know how to log onto YouTube in order to find a tutorial. But seriously, Thanos would without a doubt destroy the Riddler if the two ever came into contact with each other. But it would be fun to see what riddles the Riddler tries to stump Thanos with, wouldn't it? Look, Deadshot never misses. I understand it, but unless Floyd Lawton has a gun that specifically shoots Stormbreakers, then having perfect accuracy isn't going to necessarily matter. In all different scenarios, Thanos beats Deadshot without really batting an eye unless Deadshot can continuously keep his distance from the Mad Titan. But that does raise an interesting scenario. Wouldn't it be hilarious if Thanos actually wasn't bulletproof? Like, Steve bashed him with the shield a few times with no effect, but I've seen him hit regular people with that as well. All I'm saying is maybe one high-powered rifle blast from Deadshot could have stopped Infinity War before it started. Probably not, but it's fun to think about. Obviously, I didn't include Condiment King on this list because I didn't want to make things unfair for Thanos. Because seriously, have you ever had mustard in your eye? That's basically game over right there, no matter who you are.